Welcome to the Sacred Window podcast. Here, we look closely at the intersections of the postpartum window, the Ayurvedic perspective on health and healing, and the universal mother principles that are the keys to giving and receiving effective care. Hello, I'm Christine Devlin Eck. I'll be taking you through interviews with professionals who are making a profound difference in the lives of their clients, conversations with individuals brave enough to share their stories of vulnerability as a way to lift up others, and my own journey through birth, parenting, caregiving, and building a conscious business. We are here to honor the sacred windows, the profound transitions in life that give it all meaning. Welcome to the conversation.
And I will never be the same again.
Everyone says that the postpartum period should be about rest. But have you noticed that the people trying to support postpartum mothers are often the ones getting the least rest themselves? What if the problem isn't just how we care for people after birth, but the entire model of caregiving in our culture? This episode today is about building a practice that honors rest, why the Ayurvedic lens to postpartum care is different, and why it matters to us as the care providers, why it matters to us as parents raising families and trying to create a sustainable sense of wellness and balance in our day-to-day life, trying to build truly meaningful and sustainable, both financially and energetically, practices that make a difference. So we can see in our Western model that there are very obvious gaps. We can see that, families are having their babies, they're coming in for 6 weeks, maybe they're coming in for 12 weeks. But what happens in those first weeks is oftentimes completely unknown. There's an incredible amount of preparation that can happen for birth. Hopefully, we have resources. Things have come so far in understanding how to prepare for birth for a more desired outcome of what we want, the way we want to birth, the people we want with us, the energetics around our birthing spaces, the way that we prepare for birth. There is so much more available to us now than there was 20, 30, 40 plus years ago. And yet, in the postpartum window, too many families are coming to this point in their lives with very little understanding of how this integration happens, and that the integration of it happening is going to take place in a very, very real sense in the physical body and a very real sense in the energetic, mental, emotional body. And so when we are navigating this medical system that has lost a lot of the very traditional, sound, generally understood practices of how to take care of a new family, a new mother after birth, we're a bit flailing in the wilderness of not knowing. And I know this because I was there. I know this because as someone who is a very diligent pregnant person and reading all the things and getting so prepared and making extremely intentional decisions about how I wanted my pregnancy and my birth to go, having absolutely no clue as to what in the world I could do to make this extremely confusing and somewhat overwhelming and, frankly, painful healing weeks, how to make that easier. I just didn't know. So when we are thinking about creating a practice that will make a very, very real difference, I am talking about how can we create a reciprocal experience so that we are acknowledging that the deficits in the role of caregiving in our culture, as they are, have the opportunity here to shift. So not only are we creating uh, an ability to care for clients in a way that is centered on the birth giver, which in turn reflects its impact onto the wellness of the baby and the entire family, I'm including the care provider in this picture as well. Because the fact of the matter is that no matter if we are 6 weeks postpartum or 6 years postpartum or 60 years postpartum, we are, as humans, going to go through massive moments of transition, whether it's on a physical level, whether it's menopause, whether it is moving, whether it is illness, whether it is divorce, whether it is any kind of big change. This is an opportunity for rethinking how we heal, how we integrate, how we show up, how we run a business, how we parent, how we partner, how we show up for our community and give in the way that we want to give at all moments. And rest is this kind of simple concept that has many different beautiful shining facets to it. So while the title of this episode sounds very simple, the fact is that we can create the most beautiful, perfect, reflective gem that represents who we are, what our needs are, what the needs of our communities and our unique clients are, and act in every moment in a place that is towards alignment for that unique situation. So let's talk a little bit about what makes Ayurvedic postpartum care different. And we'll talk about how that is reflective in a professional practice and how we can create a more financially and energetically impactful presence in our work. The first is this concept of Agni, which is digestive fire. So when we are paying attention to our functioning of the digestive system, what we can see is that we have a pathway here to directly impact every other process that the body goes through. Ayurveda recognizes that all disease, all dis-ease begins in the gut. So being able to digest and eliminate our food beautifully, regularly, effectively, this will in turn boost our milk supply, um, boost every single operating tissue system in the body. So during postpartum, we're looking closely at how are we digesting food because we can't digest the same foods after birth that we could before we had that baby. It's different. We're going to need to build back up the ability to digest that food in a way that oftentimes is totally overlooked. So it's not just about eating warm foods, which of course is something we want to focus on. Agni, we have to remember, is the foundation for everything. It's the foundation for healing, for milk production, for mental health, for our overall energy. This is about understanding the wisdom of why certain foods at certain times with certain preparations make all the difference for this certain person. So, it's interesting because when we are in the postpartum window, maybe we've, kind of glanced over some recipes or looked at, I remember a client telling me like, I actually don't like mushy foods. It's like I have like an aversion to that. I don't like that at all. And then when we were, when I was serving her this first day's rice pudding, she was like, I don't know why, but this is exactly the thing that I wanted. There's something about when the body is craving certain qualities, even if they are not the things that we normally would find delicious, all of a sudden it is the most yummy thing that we have had ever. Not only are the qualities so important for understanding which quality is going to increase this person's agni right now, which quality is going to help them eliminate each day a little better, which of the qualities in the foods are going to give them a grounded nervous system and a robust milk supply. Which of the qualities do I need to include in these foods that are going to help them heal? And this is a beautiful knowledge base that is available to us through the Ayurvedic lens. And what's so beautiful is that we have the opportunity to really cater towards each person's preferences, towards each person's um, background and lineage and the cultural foods that they grew up loving and the foods that make them feel safe and healed. Like we can create with these unique nutritional principles the ability to help someone heal through foods that feel familiar and comforting to them, using unique, very simple tweaks and substitutions and making sure that the right qualities are there. We can help them to have a robust Agni that is going to serve them. As the care provider, this is equally as important. When we are looking at our own digestive fire, this immediately impacts our level of sustainability. It also immediately impacts like our mind. If we think about the Agni there's little Agnis in every single cell of our body. So the way that our cells can process, the way that our mind can process information, Agni is the digestive fire. So the fire, the light in the mind is called our tejas. So we can think about this as like, are we able to see our businesses in the most discerning way? Are we able to generate the creative ideas and the decision making and the growth opportunities and the connection and the communication uh, um, ability to coordinate and collaborate with other people in our communities to help boost and expand the presence that we have in our communities. Agni is directly related to our tejas and our ability to grow a successful business. The next piece that I want to talk about, what makes Ayurvedic postpartum care, not only for clients, but for care providers, is the idea of this 42 sacred window. This 42-day window, we can see sort of the idea of 6 weeks being important in lots of different spaces. Even in our Western model, there is an expectation of 6 weeks. And this is intentional. There is something much deeper than a surface understanding of 6 weeks, 40 days, 42 days. What I love about the emphasis that Ayurveda puts on this 6 week window is that we are given an overall entry understanding that this is a unique and important time. This is time to step back, to allow the body on all the levels to do what it has to do, to listen to itself, to go through that kind of it's that people talk about the goo phase of the caterpillar, becoming the butterfly, but this is very real. There's a reforming, there's a re coming back into homeostasis, but so much more than that. It's re-identifying ourselves from, before birth to parenting this new person, to integrating this new person into our lives, into our families. And this takes time. And so when we approach postpartum with this overall reverence of This is a time that is separate, that is different, that requires care and support and intentionality. Automatically, a person is going to be set up in a better way to experience a full healing. When we come into the postpartum window completely unaware, assuming that it's going to be fine, or everyone figures it out, or we'll just, you know, I'll just sleep as much as I can, or my mom will come for a week, or yeah, my husband will take a couple weeks. When we don't have that overall weight of understanding and reverence about what this time actually is, we're so much more often to experience the overwhelm and the bewilderment and feeling blindsided um, and suffering, truly. In professional practice, recognizing that also we have these moments where it's time to integrate, it's time to rest. There are natural cycles that happen in businesses. And so having a finger on the pulse of when is it my time to extend outward and have lots of activity and make lots of connections and start building? When is it my time to stop bringing things in and let things reintegrate on the inside? I'm in a period like that myself right now, where I've spent the last year learning lots of new things. And now, even though it can feel really tempting to continue to bring in and learn more and um, constantly be sort of open and accepting things in, I've got to actually sit and pause and let the things that I've been learning orient themselves to my business, to what it is that I'm doing. I'm settling, I'm allowing things to take the time they need to start to make sense and build themselves within the qualities that is my business, that is my work, that is me. And so this is a really important piece in a culture where we love productivity and we love adding things and we love building and we love efficiency. Where are we allowing the space for a deeper, more intentional connection? And when we tap into that, it's like that source, which is in everything. And also in the businesses we create, it is in the process of connecting to our inner source to expand in the most impactful. I get chills thinking about it because without that plug in, without that reverence for this access to intentional source, whatever we want to call it, whatever the words are, rest allows us space, slowness allows us to tap into that wisdom, that source wisdom that will allow us to grow in ways we cannot do if we are burning the candle at both ends. How are you sharing your gifts and passion for caregiving with others? In a world where education and awareness around the postpartum window is lacking or missing from our modern systems, we have a profound opportunity to shift that paradigm. You may be a few simple offerings away from making a truly impactful difference in the lives of mothers and families in your community. We are here to support your journey in the ways that work best for you. Schedule a conscious care strategy session to meet one on one with me, and let's identify the right next step for you to begin a path of conscious care for new families that fits your life and your needs. Visit www.sacredwindowstudies.com/strategy-session to schedule a time that works best for you. That's www.sacredwindowstudies.com /strategy-session. So within our cycles, we're going to have different stages for different qualities. And so, similar to taking that 42-day window in postpartum, how are we setting aside the time that we need to become an aligned care provider, an aligned business practitioner, an aligned individual, so that when we are serving, when we are holding space for our businesses, it has the capacity to grow and be its full, beautiful expression. The next aspect I want to talk about is the doshas and individual care. So, when we look at the way that we show up for clients, we know, no matter what our background is, we can tell, like, not everyone has even kind of remotely the same story, circumstance. Um, Everything about everyone is beautifully unique. When we are looking through the Ayurvedic lens, we are taking what we know of nature, the elements in nature, and we are using that important, steady place with which to start to understand what people have in their own constitutions and how we can approach care to them through understanding their constitution based on these natural, steady elements. The five elements in Ayurveda, we have space, air, fire, water, earth. These are broken down into the three doshas. There's so much beautiful wisdom out there and readings and information about the doshas, and I encourage you to look deeper into that. But the doshas are Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. They are combinations of these five elements, and every single person has a unique balance of each of these doshas within us, which is our unique constitution. So I know for me, I have a Pitta Kapha dominant constitution. Um, I have a lot of motivating, fiery energy of Pitta, but I have a very grounding, watery Kapha that holds that. And we live in a very sort of Vata aggravating world where most people feel some level of Vata imbalance, which can manifest like some stress or anxiety or feeling like things are moving too fast or we're so busy. This is a lot of Vata energy that is impacting all of us in some way or another. So, the beautiful thing is being able to look at the qualities that each of these doshas has and the opposite qualities, which help to bring that dosha back into a place of balance. When we have that lens, we can look at one client and understand, okay, this person is, they have a lot of vata dosha in their constitution. They maybe they also have a fair amount of pitta, which can kind of become aggravated by that vata dosha. We can look at these unique qualities within this person and understand these are the elements of care, the elements of food and routine that I can help bring in and maybe help them become a little more aware of some simple tools that will directly impact wherever it is that they are feeling an imbalance. And those recommendations for this client are going to be different than they are for this client over here. So, the ability to offer truly individual care to people, as well as this is kind of moving into the realm of our own businesses and how we have the opportunity to really look at our own constitution in terms of how am I setting up my business? If I know that I am heavily, I have a lot of kapha dosha in my constitution, And I like things to stay the same. I like steady things. I like structure. And, I have a hard time making change. If I know this about myself, I can be aware of, okay, I'm going to push myself a little bit here. I'm going to acknowledge that I have a tendency to do this. Maybe I have a tendency to be a little unmotivated. Maybe I have a tendency um, to shy away from new experiences or take risks because I just feel safer and more comfortable over here. If I know this about myself, then I can simultaneously build a practice that honors that structure, that honors the regular, maybe my schedule is very consistent, it's very regular, but maybe I'm going to have a little bit of um, add a little bit of fire and change into this because I know this will help keep me in balance. So maybe I'm going to learn a new skill set. Maybe I'm going to learn a new service type of technique that I can offer to clients, and I'm going to kind of put myself out there and add this in because I know that that energy is important for keeping me in a place of balance so I don't become stagnant. This is just one example of how we could apply understanding our own constitution, our own individuality to our business. And what's so cool is that when we're paying attention to how does my practice make me feel? Where are the areas of my practice that feel like they're not sustainable, like there's an imbalance in here? We can look at the qualities there based on how we feel. We can look at that and understanding the lens of Ayurveda, we can literally apply what we understand about the elements, about the doshas, about the qualities, and use that as an ability to make discerning choices in our business to create a more sustainable, energetically and financially business. It like never stops being applicable. It's so beautiful. So the last aspect of care that, I'll talk about both for clients and for care providers is this idea of oil, of warmth, of routine, and of rest. There's so much more that is happening during rest than just sleep, particularly in a sacred window such as postpartum. Rest is the opportunity for every single tissue system to start to navigate back to a place of homeostasis. When we rest, this is our body's opportunity to go to work for us and start to repair, start to rebalance, start to rebuild our ojas, rebuild our vital energy stores. It's also a time where we get the opportunity to release that elevated vata dosha to start to come to a place of balance with the hormone floods that are happening. Oftentimes, our cortisol starts to overflow from the vessel that we have, which is the right size to hold it. That cortisol is just overflowing. So, we're getting some stress response hormones that don't have a boundary around them anymore. When we rest, when we practice routines which allow us to experience the benefit of rest, I'm thinking of Nadi Shodhana pranayama. I'm thinking of yoga nidra. Practices like this, which allow the body to experience the deep benefits of rest, even if we can't be sleeping. When we talk about oil and warmth in Ayurveda, these are all things that pacify Vata dosha. In the postpartum window, everyone is going to experience elevated Vata dosha, and most of our care is focused around balancing Vata, bringing it back to a healthy, balanced state. However, as I mentioned a little while ago, our society has elevated Vata dosha rampant. We are all experiencing elevated air and space elements in some way. When we understand what that feels like to have elevated Vata dosha, we can understand through this lens very simple ways to allow us to come back to a place where we can make grounded decisions, where we can operate from a place of connection with self, connection with loved ones, connection with source. We have the opportunity with our clients during their beautiful and often really challenging sacred postpartum windows to help them navigate elevated Vata dosha through oil, warmth, routine, rest, and so many more things. In our businesses, we have the opportunity to really pay attention to ourselves. When am I starting to feel like my stress is too high, like I am feeling kind of dry and frazzled and ungrounded? How can I pay attention to these moments and apply oil, warmth, routine, rest, and so much more? When we are teaching about this in our programs, it is paramount that we understand that this is a reciprocal process. Giving conscious postpartum care with Ayurvedic principles to a client also is the opportunity and the expectation that we can also reflect back and know ourselves. We can live this wisdom. What happens to the caregiving culture at large when care providers are no longer stretched so thin that they end up burning out? What happens to the culture at large when providing care and taking time to care for people in any capacity is truly admired and valued and lifted up? What happens to culture when we know and honor that moment inside where we say, I need to pause? What happens if we say, pushing through is not right for me right now? And we have the ability to make that decision. How does that impact all of culture? This is very exciting, and these shifts are already happening. There are so many more people talking about the postpartum window, the potential for healing and remembering these incredible arts that have been lost around rebalancing after birth, and how we can have and build businesses that truly feed not only our families and our bank accounts, but feed our calling, our purpose, our passion. There is extreme opportunity for maximizing every moment of our work, of our experience doing that work, and how that brings us closer to ourselves and um, to everything we want to bring in around us. For me, this work keeps uncovering more layers of discovery. We started our first group of students in the fall of 2018, and we have never stopped. And it becomes more rich and colorful and luminous every single year. If this type of care is calling you, please reach out. We are welcoming students brand new in 2026. Students are starting this week. We have several more start dates in 2026, but most importantly, if something is calling you about your work in postpartum care, and even if you don't know exactly what that is, but you feel like there's something more that you haven't had the opportunity to put your finger on yet or to discover, you are not alone. We are all discovering together, but this missing piece is here. It's been here for thousands and thousands of years, and we get the opportunity through this journey, this path of study, this path of discovery, to apply it to this moment. It's not about taking ancient things and trying to understand it. It's about living it. It's about knowing our human experience to the deepest, most beautiful aspects of it that we can. We're here for you. Thank you so much for listening. And I hope that something in this conversation, this exploration has helped awaken something in you. We're here. Don't hesitate to reach out.
Shanti, Shanti.
The Center for Sacred Window Studies has been training postpartum care providers, professionals who work with new families, and individuals passionate about postpartum care since 2018. We regularly host live free events alongside our online and in-person training and certification programs. Hop on our newsletter list to get direct access to all of our events and community support gatherings. Our mission is not only in training conscious postpartum care providers, but in fostering a robust, informed, and thriving community of postpartum professionals. Once you step inside, you're family forever. Visit www.sacredwindowstudies.com to add your email to our newsletter list. You can support our work by subscribing to the Sacred Window podcast and sharing with someone you know who would love it. Thanks for being here and participating in the culture-wide shift that recognizes the need for and the importance of conscious postpartum care.